Hi, my name is Demelza. Please like and subscribe. My first memory of Mom is of her voice. She'd sing lullabies to me every night, and it was the most beautiful sound in the world. The minute she stopped, I'd start screaming for more. By the time I was 1, I could hum every lullaby perfectly. Dad would play the grand piano, and I'd jump onto his lap and press the keys, delighted by the sounds I made. On Dad's 30th birthday, there was a grand celebration at our mansion. In the middle of it, I climbed onto the table and started singing the birthday song. Suddenly, a hush fell over the room. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Daddy. Happy birthday to you. When I was finished, I looked around in surprise to see grown men crying. Oh my God, she has the voice of an angel.
I always had a feeling Demelza was gifted. I'm so proud of you, darling.
My parents hired the best musicians and vocal coaches for me, and there was no stopping me after that. At every party, I'd put on a show for our guests, and I'd make them pay me too. My life was perfect until one day when everything changed. When I was in the 3rd grade, Dad had just returned from a business trip, and I stopped short when I saw a scrawny little girl get out of the car too. She was trying to hide behind Dad, but he gently pushed her forward.
Demelza, this is Isabel. She's your sister, and she's going to live with us now. Will you take care of her?
I looked into her scared, dark eyes and immediately took her hand. Always. But the day Isabel walked in, a dark shadow was cast over our happy home. That evening, we overheard a huge fight between my parents.
You've broken my heart, and now you've brought a reminder of that to live with us? She can't stay here. I won't raise a child that isn't mine. She has nowhere to go. Her mother's gone. I know you hate me right now, but please, don't take it out on her. She's just a kid.
I didn't want Isabel to hear this, so I said, "Come on, I'll play something for you. What's your favorite song?" I didn't fully understand what was happening, but one thing was clear. Mom hated Isabel. She pretended like Isabel didn't even exist. But Dad and I adored her, and we more than made up for Mom's ice-cold attitude. But in the 8th grade, we got some news one day that turned our worlds around. Dad had been in a terrible car accident, and he was gone. We were all devastated. But Mom just shut herself up in her room for weeks. One night, I was reading a story to Isabel when Mom suddenly barged in.
What are you doing in my daughter's room? You're just a poor maid.
Mom, are you okay? She's not a maid. This is Isabel, remember?
How could I forget her? Everything bad that's happened to us is her fault.
I stared in horror at Mom as Isabel started to cry.
Pack your things first thing in the morning, Isabel. You're going to be sleeping with the maids now.
What? No, she's not going anywhere.
Either she goes to the maids or the orphanage. This is her last night here.
As Mom was leaving, she suddenly pounced at Isabel, grabbed her stuffed bunny, and threw it in the fire.
No, my mom made that.
Isabel cried for hours, and I hugged her to sleep. What had happened to my mom? The very next day, Isabel was shifted to the maids' quarters and made their helper after school. I was scared she'd be sent away, so I didn't fight with Mom, but I'd sneak food to her and help her with her homework at night. And at school, we could always hang out together. But one day, I was really surprised to see Mom marching into the principal's office. "Mom, what are you doing here?"
"Oh, I'm here to withdraw Isabel from school, of course."
"You can't do that.
She has to go to school." "Why? She's never going to be anything but a maid like her stupid mother. You don't need an education to sweep floors."
As she turned around, I grabbed Mom's wrist. "If you make her drop out of school, I will too, and I'll tell everyone why." "Are you sure you want everyone to know how you really treat Isabel, Mom? Dad would be so disappointed in you." Mom looked shocked, then angrily pulled her arm away and left. I'd won this little battle, but God knows what she'd do next. Things weren't great at home, but at least I had Eric. He was my boyfriend for 2 years and was just crazy about my voice. One evening when I was on a date with him, I suddenly started getting calls from Isabel.
Come home right now.
I ran home to a scene of complete chaos. Mom was tearing apart Isabel's room. What's going on?
Your dad's watch is missing, and I'm going to search all the maids' rooms. And when I find it, I'm kicking out the thief for good.
Just then, a servant came from another room, saying it was under Mom's personal maid's bed. Mom looked completely shocked to find out it was her, but she threw her bags out instantly. Some days later, it was Isabel's 13th birthday, and I snuck into her room with a cake. When she blew the candles out, I asked her what she'd wished for. I wished your mom was dead. Isabel, you don't mean that. She's my mom. Isabel stayed silent, and I got up to leave. I'd never seen that look of hatred on my little sister's face before. In the middle of all this drama, I had a huge audition coming up. A prestigious music academy was looking for talent from different schools, and being selected would be a dream. But 5 days before the audition, I woke up with my throat hurting. I called out to the maid, but to my horror, my voice was gone. Mom rushed me to the doctor, who diagnosed me with laryngitis. What he said next left me shocked.
Your voice will return to normal soon, but this is the end of your singing. If you strain your vocal cords too much, you could lose your voice permanently.
I just couldn't believe it. On the day of the auditions, I slipped into the auditorium with Eric, feeling devastated. I wanted to be up on that stage more than anything. And then, one of the judges said,
"The last performer is Miss Isabel."
Wait, what? Isabel stepped onto the stage and started singing.
You made me insecure.
I was stunned. Her voice was beautiful. The judges gave her a standing ovation and said they'd be in touch with her soon. As everyone started to leave, I caught up with her. Isabel, that was amazing. But why didn't you tell me you could ever sing like that? She brushed my arm off angrily, her eyes blazing. You never asked. You just assume that you're the only one with any talent. But I guess that's something we both got from our father. It makes you unhappy, doesn't it? Why would you say that? I've always had your back, Isabel. Yet, I've been living as a maid in my dad's house for years. And you did nothing. You think sneaking me food makes up for how I'm treated? No, it doesn't. All it does is make you feel good about yourself. Isabel, I tried. You should have tried harder. I hate you, Demelza. As she stormed off, I felt heartbroken. As Eric walked me back home that evening, suddenly a cyclist came charging straight at him. I pushed Eric out of the way just in time, but he landed on the pavement, hitting his head. I quickly called an ambulance, and after hours of waiting at the hospital, we were shocked to get the news. Eric was in a coma. The doctors were hopeful he'd wake up soon, but weeks turned into months, and before I knew it, a year had passed. I was almost done with high school, and Isabel was in her music academy on full scholarship, but we never spoke anymore. One day when I went to see Eric, I was shocked to see him sitting up in bed. "Oh my God, you're awake!" He gently pushed me away.
"I'm sorry. Who are you?"
"Eric, it's me, Demelza, your girlfriend."
"Can you sing?"
"Yes. Well, I used to, but then I got sick and had to stop, remember?"
"No. I just know that my girlfriend sings beautifully. I couldn't move or see all these months, but she'd talk and sing to me often, and I could hear her. I know her voice, and it's not you."
Suddenly, my blood ran cold when I heard someone behind me. "Babe, that was me. You could hear me?" "Isabel?"
Yes, it's you."
She ran forward and hugged him, and then they kissed. Suddenly, I just lost it. I pulled Isabel by her hair. "Are you completely crazy? You've been visiting my boyfriend and singing to him? Tell him you're lying."
"I am not. He's mine. Let me go, witch."
And suddenly, she pushed me viciously and I went flying into a trolley. I attacked her and we went crashing straight into the machines. And the next thing we knew, we were both thrown out of the hospital. I turned furiously to Isabel. "We're done. For good. You've become a hateful monster. I don't even know who you are anymore, but you're definitely not my sister. finally. And with that, she left. I went on a very long walk to clear my head, and by the time I got home, Isabel was gone. The next morning, Mom discovered a lot of things were gone too, including Dad's watch.
I'm going to report her to the police. I'm going to...
Mom, just stop it. She's gone. That's what you wanted since you first saw her, right? And so what if she took Dad's stuff? It's hers too. Let it freaking go. A year later, I went off to university to study music. If I couldn't sing anymore, I could still play. In my final year, I was leaving the campus one day when I stepped on a newspaper. It had Eric and Isabel's face on the front page with the headline, "Billionaire to tie knot in 2 weeks." Well, good for them. But just a few days later, I walked into a coffee shop, and to my shock, I saw Eric there. And he was kissing a blonde girl that definitely wasn't Isabel. I just walked away. It wasn't my problem, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. And when her wedding day arrived, I just couldn't not do anything. Even if she hated me, she was my frickin' little sister. And that's how I found myself bursting into the church and running like crazy down the aisle. Hold it! This wedding can't happen! As Isabel turned to look at me in horror, I ran straight at her and hugged her. I held onto her tight as she squirmed and shrieked. OMG, you psycho, get off me. I love you, Isabel. I'm not going anywhere till you listen to me. As Eric looked super mad and everyone stared at us, she dragged me off to a small room. What do you think you're doing, Demelza? Isabel, you can't marry Eric. He's a cheater. I saw him kissing a girl the other day. I swear, I'm not lying. You think I don't know about that? Well, I do, and it doesn't matter. I stole your man, and he'll take care of me. At least I got rid of you and your psycho mom, so just buzz off. Isabel, listen to me. You're just angry right now. I'm so sorry about everything. Mom was unbelievably cruel to you, and I should have fought harder. You deserved so much better, and you still do. Don't marry this jerk, please. Why do you care? Because you're my little sister, and I miss you so much. I had 2 things that I loved the most, my voice and you. I lost my voice for good, and I don't want to lose you too. Please forgive me and come with me.
Oh, Demelza, I'm so sorry for all the horrible things I did to you. I thought I wanted to marry Eric to tease you, but I now realize that everything I've been doing in my life was to not end up alone. I just wanted to belong to someone. You belong to me. You're my family. I made a promise to Dad to take care of you, and I will, always. And with that, we hugged each other and walked back to our home. Family always comes first.
Hi, my name's Natalie, and I'm obsessed with following the latest trends and buying new clothes. However, my mother and sister aren't like that at all. I want to be a fashion designer when I leave school, but my mom always scoffs and tells me that isn't a real profession. Well, she is a university lecturer and seems to hate it. So I don't want to do something I don't love. So here's a little background about me. My parents split up when I was 12. They had never got on really well. I think that my dad made a lot of effort with my mom, but she always seemed frustrated with him. She would snap at him for tiny things and would seem bored when he was telling her something. My dad didn't seem to mind that much, though. Maybe he was worried that if he left my mom, he wouldn't see me and my sister as much. Eventually, though, it must have gotten to be too much for him. After a week of whispered arguing and concealed crying, my dad announced that he was moving out. They assured us that we would still see loads of them both, and they definitely made that their #1 priority. In fact, in some ways, things improved a lot after they split up. We spent half the week at my mom's, half the week at my dad's, and then alternated weekends. It actually meant we got to spend more quality time with each parent. Strangely, my dad seemed to have taken it much better than my mom. Even though I thought he was the one more invested in the relationship before, it seemed like a huge weight had been lifted off his chest now. He was more relaxed and laughed more. My mom, on the other hand, was more stressed than ever, and snapped at us constantly. After about a year, my dad introduced me to Jessica, his new girlfriend. I was taken aback. I hadn't expected my dad to move on so fast. Obviously, I was happy for him, but I wasn't sure I would get on with his new woman. What if she was like stepmothers in films? Super controlling and trying to get rid of the kids. What if I never got to see my dad anymore? But as soon as I met Jessica, my worries faded away. She seemed very friendly and kind. While chatting, I told Jessica about my love of clothes and that I wanted to try and start making some of my own. I was surprised when she admitted to also being really into making her own clothes. And she showed me a picture of her in a beautiful dress that she had made. It was absolutely beautiful. I asked her if she would help me make a dress for my end-of-term party, and she said she would love to. I couldn't believe I had just met Jessica. It already felt like we had known each other for ages. My dad was clearly as thrilled as we were that we got on well. When I went to my mom's that night, my little sister had already told my mom about Jessica. My mom looked extremely grumpy and was very short with me when she asked what I thought about Dad's new girlfriend. The next weekend I was spending with my dad, but he told me when I arrived that he had to go away with work and asked if I would mind spending the weekend with Jessica. I said I didn't mind at all. Jessica seemed really excited to spend time with me too. We spent Friday night watching movies and eating chocolate, and she plaited my hair really nicely. The next day, we decided to go shopping for supplies for my dress. But it really just turned into a huge shopping spree. She was even more fun to go shopping with than my friends, because she had a really good eye for fashion. We spent Sunday working on my dress, and my weekend passed so fast because of how much fun I was having. I know it's awful, but I secretly wished that my mom could be a bit more like Jessica. Think how close we would be. When I got home to my mom's on Monday evening, she was too busy with work to talk to me until dinner time. She was actually acting really strangely, being really quiet and even more blunt than usual. It kind of seemed like she was depressed or something. I asked her if I could go to Dad's next weekend, saying that Jessica will help me with my homework. To my surprise, my mom burst into tears. I didn't know what to do. I had never seen my mom cry before. She started shouting at me, saying that it was fine if I preferred spending time with my dad's new girlfriend than her, that I could do what I wanted. I could see that it clearly wasn't fine, but I thought my mom was acting very childishly, and I wasn't about to argue with her in this mood, so I just left the room. The next weekend was amazing. We continued working on my dress, and I couldn't wait to try it on. Jessica was funny, but also really kind, and treated me like an adult. On Monday evening back at my mom's, I braced myself for her to get angry again. But she was strangely calm, which was kind of worse because it made me very uneasy. She didn't ask me how my weekend was. Instead, she asked me if I wanted to go out dress shopping after school on Wednesday. She said she had seen a lovely dress that would really suit me. I knew I should have told her about the fact that I was making my dress, but I didn't have the heart to. On Wednesday, we went to see the dress, and as I expected, it was hideous. It had long sleeves and was a burgundy velvet. I would be the laughingstock of my class. I told her that I was kind of looking for something a bit more floaty and short, and she told me that she didn't think a dress like that would be appropriate for me. I hate how she always tries to control my life. I was so annoyed that I told her I was making a dress with Jessica. She didn't say anything to me for the rest of the evening, but the next day, she had told me that I was staying at her house for the weekend because I needed to catch up on my schoolwork and because Jessica was ill. I knew this wasn't true, but I knew I had no power to argue with her. The weekend before my party, I'd rather live with Dad because at least Jessica was nice to me and talked to me about stuff and actually wanted to hang out with me. I told her how bored I was living with a depressed mom and why couldn't she be a bit more cool, like Jessica? My mom burst into tears when she heard all of this, and she came over to my bed and tried to hug me, saying she was so sorry, and she'd sort herself out and make everything better. I was crying too, but I told her I was just sick of this life. It was making me so exhausted. My mom said she promised she would change, and she'd get some help for her depression. She asked for a second chance and explained that since Dad had met Jessica, she'd been jealous, and she'd been taking it out on me and my sister, and it wasn't fair, and she would try harder for us. She couldn't stop crying, and it really seemed like she was embarrassed about how jealous she'd been of Jessica. I just hoped things would get better. I couldn't bear this, and to top it all off, I wouldn't even get to go to the party now. The following Thursday night, I gave in to the fact that I wouldn't be going to the party the next day and got into my pajamas to watch a film. I felt so sad. Everyone was going except me. Just as I clicked play, there was a knock on my door. My mom came in holding a bag. I figured it was going to be the burgundy dress. There was no way I was going to wear that thing. But then my mom pulled the dress out, and it was my dress, the one Jessica and I had been working on. I couldn't believe it. It turned out that Jessica had actually been ill, and the following weekend, she and my dad had gone to get me a surprise for my outfit, a beautiful tiara that my grandma wore at her wedding. Then Jessica had finished my dress as a surprise, and the most shocking part was that my mom had helped her. They had worked on it together. I ran and hugged my mom, and I couldn't stop smiling. She hugged me back and said she would do anything for me, even if that meant cooperating with Jessica.